to another fun-filled episode of Chit-Chattin with Becca and Amy. So we are here. Today's episode is going to be all about Roy Ponder and Ponder on weather and weird and wild weather and what the heck is going on with all the hurricanes that we've got coming right now, and all that stuff. So he's not going to actually do a weather check-in because it's his episode. So we're going to go through all of our fun. Here's my list of things. I have to remember that I have to go the other way. Here's my list of things that we're going to talk about prior to going on, and they'll go quickly because I have large handwriting. So that's fun. But welcome, everybody. We're so excited that you're here and so excited for another Saturday. Notre Dame is currently playing the football, and so we were just screaming at the television, and then we came in here. So that's kind of where we're at. But I will also tell you something rather funny. In high school, Amy and I were both in the theater. I'm sure that you didn't realize that.
It's tough to pick up on.
It's tough to pick up on, yeah. If you went to high school with us, then of course you know that. But we were both in the theater, and Amy was more of a stage person, and I was a backstage person. I was not an on the stage person at all. So in our house on Saturdays, I do the call like a stage manager would. So starting, around 12:30ish, I do the 2-hour, call, and I start working on making sure, getting the show ready and everything like that. And then when it gets to be 2, I do a 30-minute call. And then I do a 15-minute call, then a 10, then a 5. And my favorite part of doing all of that is that Amy says thank you, just like you're supposed to do when you do a call. So when I walk around and I say, yes, you're welcome. See, and then she acknowledges, like you're supposed to, that I have given her the call. And that's my favorite thing about, one of my favorite things about show days. So just a couple of things. Little's birthday is on the 19th, which I just realized is also Jeff Whittington's birthday, and we love the Whittingtons. And I am so happy that Little and Jeff share a birthday, and that makes me very happy. So we've gotten some birthday cards for Little and some gifts, and I hope that y'all have gotten her correspondence and her thank yous back, because she's polite. She's a polite child. So yesterday, we have to tell them what happened. Yesterday, Little was acting a little strange. She was being a little needy and weird. And I was like, what is the deal, Pickle? And so we went through the whole day, and we went through the whole day. And then today, we were sitting outside on the porch because it is delightful outside. Although it is a little humid, it is delightful, especially for September in Texas. So we spent the morning on the back porch on the couch. We've got a big couch back there, and we took a nap, and we napped it up. We napped it up good too. Boy, I napped it up real good. Did you nap it up good? I mean, I napped it up good. And then before we napped, Amy had brought out some breakfast, which was lovely. She made these lovely omelets, and they were delicious. And I had looked down at Little's little, it is her right paw, her right dew claw, her right thumb. She split the nail, just split it. And that's why she was so upset yesterday. Poor little baby had a split nail. So we're very sad about that, but she's doing well today. She feels better. She had to come show it to me and hold her paw up and be all sad. And then once I realized that it was there, then she felt better. And then had to put her little head in my chest to be all sweet. And then Mama felt guilty for not noticing yesterday. So make sure to follow us. I set up a new Facebook page. Make sure to go and follow the Chit-Chattin with Becca page. You can follow us on the Instagrams. You can follow us on the Twitter. You can also go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, so you keep up to date on everything, and we would love to have you. Excuse me. Next week's episode, we will have Dr. Janet Johnson on, and we will be chit-chatting about social media and politics and how social media affects us and all kinds of other fun stuff, because Dr. Janet is fascinating. And we'll give you more Dr. Janet information throughout the week. So again, follow us on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Twitters and all, and subscribe and all that whatnot, and then you'll get all of Dr. Janet's fun stuff. So while we're talking about Dr. Janet, I want to make sure that everybody is registered to vote. Make sure that you are registered to vote, because we're getting close to our national elections, although you always want to make sure that you're voting in your state and local elections as well, because you have a voice and you want to use it. So you could go to vote.org. We'll give you all the information on voting. Also, you can just go to Google and type in early vote plus your city and state, and it will list all of the information on how you can vote, how you can vote early, what documents are needed to make sure that you can vote on the day that you go to vote. So make sure that you are ready to go with that. And let's do the mail. So we got some mail. We love your mail. We love your corresponding with us. So
we got this postcard here. See India, and it is Chitchattin with Becca! Exclamation point. I'm enjoying the episode so much and can't wait for the next one. Love y'all, Helen.
We love Dr. Helen. Thank you, Dr. Helen.
And then we've got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle postcard.
We do.
Also from
Heroes in a Half Shell.
Turtle Power.
Turtle Power.
Also from Helen, it says happy birthday, little Auntie Helen.
Happy birthday,
thank you, Helen, for the correspondence.
Thank you,
do
Dr.
appreciate
Helen.
that.
We do love your correspondence, so please keep it coming. And if you don't have our address, you can DM us, direct message us on the Facebooks or the Instagrams, the Twitters, or however you want to do it, and we will be happy to give you our address. Although I believe you can also go to the white pages, you know, if you have that book. If not, you can just Google it. So anyway, today is National Chocolate Milkshake Day.
Oh, we'll have to take advantage of that.
We'll be taking advantage of that when we go to, we are going to go and get a little bit of pho later. I'm going to have the bump away. Amy will have the pho. And maybe we'll have to stop and get us a chocolate milkshake.
We just might, yeah.
Yeah. Today is also National Day of Encouragement.
Encouragement.
Encouragement. So good job, everyone. Y'all are doing a good job. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I am. Aren't you proud of them?
So proud.
See? Encouragement. All right. Today is also, I think this is my favorite one. Today is National Report Medicare Fraud Day.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes forget to do that, so it's good that we have a day for it.
It's delightful that we have a National Report Medicare Fraud Day. So if you know of any Medicare fraud, make sure to report it, because today is the day you want to do that. Today is also today is a lot of days, by the way. There's a lot of days happening here. Today is also the Day of the Programmer.
Okay.
That one kind of bothers me a little bit, because it's a little matrixy, and you know, we still haven't found the split board, so
Neo will come one day.
Neo could come. You don't even know. I mean, so it's Day of the Programmer. I'm just going to leave that. Y'all can just do with that what you want to. Today is also National Video Games Day. So if you are a video gamer, then enjoy. If not, then Amy, what is yours?
Joust.
Joust is Amy's favorite video game.
Yes. Very, very much.
Very much.
It's the only game where you get to ride on an ostrich and knock other guys off of their buzzards, who then lay an egg and then possibly turn into a new guy that gets picked up by another buzzard. So, you know, there's a lava man and hand. I mean, you just can't get any weirder than Joust.
It's weird. It's weird. And she loves Joust. And we go to, what's that place called?
Free Play.
Free Play. We go to Free Play. And are they kind of halfway open right now?
They are.
They're kind of halfway open right now due to the COVID. They're doing their best, but Free Play is a blast. If you've not heard about Free Play, then you can Google it. It's fantastic.
Great owner, great games, all classic, not any new stuff, and they maintain them very well. Yeah,
and then they also have pinball machines
and good food.
They do. Beer. They have like beer and wine and like bar food, but it's good.
Play.
Yeah, go to free play. Woo woo. Our fact of the day, and we talked about facts. So our fact of today is the moon has moonquakes, just like the earth has earthquakes. They're less common and less intense and are believed to occur due to tidal stresses.
Who knew?
And you wouldn't call it a moon, you would call it a moonquake. So if Saturn is a gaseous moon. So if Mars, it would be Mars quakes. Saturn is not a gaseous moon. Saturn is a gaseous planet. Just ignore my face.
Yeah, we'll have to double check with Roy on whether that's accurate.
Yeah, I don't know. Roy would know. Roy's very smart. The other interesting fact that I saw today was I Googled what is the oldest continuously inhabited city on the planet. And Jericho came up, and it came up as being inhabited since 9000 BCE. Now, I will say that if you Google that again, then Luxor comes up. Then if you Google it again, Aleppo comes up, and then Athens comes up, and then Damascus, which has been around for 11,000 years. So you just really I don't trust any of that. But in Texas, the oldest continuously inhabited city in Texas is Nacogdoches, and it has evidence of being settled for over 10,000 years.
SFA.
Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating?
Fascinating.
I'm going to call, yeah, exactly. That's your bonus Wellha fact for today. That is definitely your bonus Wellha fact for today. So those are all of the things that we had to see. I checked off my list. I had to be checking off my list. Those are all the things that we had to talk about before we get to Roy. So without further ado, I see him. He's waiting in the wings. See theater again. So let's get Roy on here. Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
Doing awesome.
So we got some stuff going on in the Gulf.
Yes, it's just now entering the Gulf. I know last weekend I was on, we talked about that strong cold front, and that did not disappoint. Yeah, so that was really nice. But yeah, I mean, tropical season's in full force. We have a low pressure. It just formed in the tropical storm Sally right off Key West of Florida. It's moving west only at 7 miles an hour, which is nothing for a hurricane. Unfortunately, it's got about 2.5 days of warm water to go over. And not only that, what they call a loop eddy in the Gulf, which that could intensify it anymore. We saw that with Michael in 2018. So, I mean, some of these models, I mean, pretty much it's narrowing it down to New Orleans, to the panhandle of Florida right now. But it's kind of the worst case scenario would be a Cat 2, Cat 3 storm, and it slows down to the coast and dumps 20, 30 inches of rain.
Oh my gosh.
That would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
The problem is there's a ridge as it lifts northward. There's a ridge up and north of it that tends to weaken that will slow it even down further. So yeah, that possibility of it stalling or slowing down or stalling by the coast or inland is very real. It could definitely happen by Tuesday. And so you have wind, you have storm surge, and the rain.
Right.
Would not be good.
Right. And then if it slows down, it's just going to sit there and suck moisture right out of the Gulf and just dump it.
Worst case scenario, you saw that with Harvey, how that can unfold when you have a tropical system right off the coast just stalling and feeding off the warm waters.
Right, for sure.
Obviously, that would be catastrophic, dumping 3-4 inch rainfall rates per hour.
For sure.
But it definitely looks like right in the mouth of the Mississippi, somewhere between New Orleans and the Panhandle right now. Like I said, it's just emerging off the Panhandle of Florida. So obviously it's only a 40-mile-per-hour storm right now. There's a lot of things that happen between now and then, but these things, it has all the makings. With Laura, we were sitting here 36 hours out. And we were only talking about a 50-mile-per-hour hurricane, and it landed 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and Atlanta is a 150-mile-per-hour hurricane, almost a Cat 5. So these
Right.
things can ramp up really quick in a short amount of time over warm water, light shear, peak hurricane time, peak hurricane seasons right now, September 10th. So, it's like prime time. It's not what you want to see in the Gulf for sure.
Right. And it looked like there were, I was looking at the NOAA Hurricane Center, and it looked like there were several systems kind of lined up.
Paulette out there that's already a hurricane. It's taken a right turn, more like what they call a fish storm, but it's going to get close to Bermuda. That's probably going to be a major hurricane. You have Renee out there, and then you have a strong tropical wave that's probably going to be a storm. If it's going to be any second now, it'll be Teddy. That's the next name. That one, the models take it into the Caribbean, and some of them take that one in the Gulf as well. Wow. That would be a week away. And then we also have another disturbance that could potentially form in the Bay of Campeche by this time next week. That could be Vicky.
Wow. Vicky,
I know. My mom actually already told me that she was going to get a hurricane if there were enough this year. So it's not spelled right, but we'll still take it.
Is that an inside joke?
Yeah. Woo! Hurricane Vicky!
It's just my mom's name.
Oh, okay. Mom's name is Vicky. Yeah, it's hard to keep up this year,
Yeah, for sure. There was one year where there was a Hurricane Rebecca, and I thought, oh Lord, please don't let Hurricane Rebecca, because then I'll never hear the end of it. Hurricane Rebecca, Becky, you got a hurricane named after you, and I don't want that. So
yeah, everybody forecasted a major season. It's on record pace. It continues to be on record pace. It actually continues to outperform 2005, which is scary.
Wow.
That had 28 storms. This is
wow.
insane. So it's on pace to even beat that. And of course, they had storms all the way to January. But the problem is NOAA just announced we're under a La Nina, a developing La Nina. We finally classified as a La Nina, and it gets stronger as it goes deeper into the winter months. Well, La Nina has less shear in the Atlantic. So that's not a good sign either, that it would, possibly keep these storms alive further or later on in the season. Because, right now we're still 60% this is peak season. So through October 15th, it's very active historically. But during a major season, we can get storms in November, December. We even had storms in January in 2005. So...
Now, Dr. Helen had a question that she wanted me to ask you. Let me pull it up here right quick. Dr. Helen says, this seems like so many systems at once. What has been the most active year on record for hurricanes? Also, she wants to know, what is the highest number of systems to occur at one time? So it looks like right now we have what, 5 systems going on right now?
Well, technically 3. There's 3 named storms. There's 2 potential. One... Yeah, we could have 5. We could have 5 at the same time.
Has there ever been a time where they're up? Bless your heart.
Well, like I said, 2005 is the highest year on record. We had 28 storms.
Okay.
The second highest year is 1933. We had 20 storms.
Okay.
We're at 18.
Wow.
So we only have 2 more storms, which is Teddy, which will be probably named tomorrow, and then we possibly have Vicky. So by this time next week, we'll probably be at the second all-time strongest season.
Wow.
So I know in 2007 there was a lot of storms at one time. There were 7 of them that hit. There were 7 just in the month of September that year.
Wow.
So yeah, this is definitely very unusual, but the data was there. You get warm waters and you have light shear. That's not a combination. All you have to have is what they call a Kelvin wave come across. You have upward rising motion with vertical velocity indexes, and it's very easy to bubble up low pressures. You have stalling fronts. We had that front, it almost actually made it into the Gulf, and it's a catch-22 with these fronts. If it's very strong this time of year, you don't want those things actually make it into the Gulf, because a lot of times they can stall in the Gulf and create low pressures on the southwest side and have little low-level spin-ups. So those can be kind of a catch-22. So, we're probably good in Texas. I mean, I would say 100% we're in the clear because that cold front, it didn't quite make it all the way through Houston.
Right.
It was mainly west of us. It pushed, west into Mexico, but the front didn't actually make it to Houston. And usually my sign is if, the first fall front of the year puts Texas in the clear, but it's got to clear the coast.
I see.
And it didn't clear the coast.
I see.
So I can't say, Texas is 100% out of the woods of hurricanes this season because we could very easily bubble up Vicky next week.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no storm to move it away west, it could easily lift up north. We'll see. I mean, you never know, but
yeah, you never know.
Typically after September 15th, you start to look at the Pacific rather than the Atlantic. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of storms coming from the Pacific side that lift up over Texas and get caught in the jet stream, and then we get some of that moisture there. But we had a lot of rain. We're 12 inches above normal.
Now, let me ask you this: when we're talking about hurricanes being on either coast, I know, and I'm please correct me if I'm incorrect. Hurricanes that come towards us, they're coming from the African coast and they're coming across the Atlantic. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so when hurricanes form in the Pacific, are they coming from? Is there a way that's coming from there?
You have the Pacific, and then when you cross over the international date line,
mm-hmm.
I mean, way out in like Guam, and that's when it transfers to like typhoons and cyclones.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, but they all, I mean, still in the Pacific, on the Eastern Pacific, they still move west.
But is there a specific area that they form, or do they just kind of all kind of form out there doing their thing? And
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of storms in the Pacific that form off Central America.
Okay,
and they run along Central America, and they usually swing up towards the Baja. If we typically get rain from a system, it's typically swings up to the Baja, gets caught on the jet stream, goes across like El Paso, and then we get hit.
I see. Right. Okay. I always wondered that, because I mean, being a Texan, I've focused on those storms that come towards us, pretty much all my life. And I've never really focused on, the typhoons and the other storms.
A storm that hits Dallas is something that makes landfall around like the Corpus Christi area, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's typically like the sweet spot because a lot of the activity is in the right front quadrant of a storm. So it has to hit well further south and then lifting north. There's been some storms that have gone directly over us, but a lot of it misses us with tropical system because they typically get pulled in the jet stream. Mm-hmm. And we're on the east side, and then we get the sinking air side, like we experienced with Laura, right? Yeah. We saw what sinking air does. We got that big spike. The temp jumped to 106.
Yeah.
Laura passed. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. We decided that we'd go find the alien graveyard, and
a lot of that had to do with that major hurricane. Just pulling everything and then sinking there on the backside and uplifting it. And I don't think we would have had 106 if it wasn't before Laura. But
yeah, you told us it was coming too, and we were like, yeah, it's coming. We'll go out there anyway. 106. That's not a big deal. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. There was like 2 days there, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Heat index 115. I'm like, come on.
I know.
My eyelids were sweating.
I know. Just stay inside.
Yeah. I know the one time we went to Austin on vacation this year, it hit 108. I was like, really? We got hiking down to like 10 and we were dying. It was like, we got to go back inside and watch Netflix or something.
I know, right? You're like, I can't even be outside right now. It's too hot. Like, I want to be out there, but I just can't.
I know. And then at like 6 o'clock, I was like, okay, it's time to go outside again.
Yeah.
It's a balmy 95.
It's a balmy. Yeah.
But yeah, we had some historic events. I mean, we'll talk about that derecho for a second. I know you're interested in that. We actually had one. It really didn't pick up terribly too much news, but in Iowa this year, we had one that, gosh, it was like 700 miles wide. It ended up being, and after estimates of the National Hurricane Center, going out there, National Weather Service, going out there and investigating. In Cedar Rapids, they had winds guesstimating 130, 140, which would have been almost like the largest derecho ever all time. And that's like Cat 3 hurricane winds. I mean, these are straight line winds. And it's hard to prepare for something like that because there was not much time to, like these hurricanes. I'm telling you right now, it could be a potential Cat 3 hurricane like 3 days out.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way someone can predict a Cat 3 derecho 3 days out. That's not going to happen.
No, yeah. And you know what's fascinating about that? We didn't even hear about that on the news. The only reason we knew about it is Amy and I work for Progressive. So we're getting all of these claims coming in, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm reading all of this information. So I immediately started Googling it, and the line from that, the way it just, and then, I mean, it just got
bow echo in the radar. You get this bow echo, and it kind of like just feeds. Like it just pushes it and builds and spreads. You have what they call back building. It spreads to the north, spreads to the south, and then feeds east. And it just, and there's nothing there. It's not like there's anything there that could possibly slow it down. There's just flat land, so it can just go. Yeah, it was in a spot that it really didn't have much buildings, and it didn't. So it was crazy. Some of these 2x4s were literally through people's houses. I mean, it's not even safe to be in your house.
No.
Like, can you imagine? It goes through the sheetrock of the house. It goes through the window. And then sticks into your sheetrock inside the house. I mean, and it's not like it's pointy. It was just a solid 2x4.
Well, and I mean, just like that one photo that I posted of those grain silos that were just completely flattened. I've never seen a grain silo completely flattened like that in my life. And I've seen some tornado damage, but I was just like, holy.
And it catches you off guard. I mean, like you're getting outside. Well, it's getting dark outside. It's stormy. And it's like the wind's picking up. And before you know it, you're in hurricane force winds. And it's like, okay, surely it's going to let up. I mean, it can't get any stronger than this. And all of a sudden your car's tipping over. It's like, oh my God, it's 100-mile-per-hour winds now. It's like, how do you?
Some folks that I talked to, they were just like, getting away from the windows, getting down on the ground, just trying to get out of the way. And like the cleanup from it is just like I can't believe that it didn't get more attention than it did, because that was a crazy weather event.
It really was. I mean, it developed so quick. And before you knew it, it was on top of them. And it did not get much attention in the news. And it was a historic event for sure.
It was a historic event for sure. And I feel like those are not as common. Is that kind of a rare weather event?
Well, it is. For it to be called a derecho, it has to be several hundred miles wide. So that in itself be rare. We actually had one come through. We had the beginning of it. It was a couple months ago. And then by the time it actually made it down to Houston and spread out to Mississippi, it was about 600 miles wide.
Wow.
But we had the beginning of it as it was just starting. And then, I remember one event in Richardson one year, the winds clocked at about 105 miles an hour.
Wow.
With one of these events. So it can happen. I mean, a lot of times we have straight line winds. It's the same thing. It's just this one's basically called over, 50, hundreds of miles.
That's just incredible.
A smaller area of, say 20 miles.
That's incredible. It's incredible. Weather is fascinating. It's so fascinating and amazing.
It seems like we've got extremes, right? I mean, it was like that with that massive cold front this year. We had, earliest snowstorm ever in Denver.
Yep.
In Colorado, earliest snowstorm in Dalhart. It's already snowed this year. I mean, who had September 9th? It's snowing in Texas, right?
Yeah, for sure. Now, you had a question?
Just how did you get involved? How long have you been doing this? What's kind of your story of living weather?
I grew up in Houston, and what got me involved with the weather was Hurricane Alicia. Back when I was 18 years old, it literally went over my house.
You went over my house. Where did you live in Houston?
In Alief.
I lived in Missouri City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that storm, I was 8, right? I mean, and we were out of power for 3 weeks, and I was just in awe. Of course, I was 8 years old, but I found myself like watching the news for the weather. So I would literally watch like Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 8, Channel 13. It's like, I had them timed. I was like, well, they only have 2 minutes and 45 seconds to talk about the weather. but I could like watch channel 4 first, and then as soon as they were drawing up the 7-day forecast, I'd flip it to 5 so I could catch that. Then I'd flip it to 8, and then 11 was always last, so I could catch 11 at the end. Yeah, that's me, right?
Yeah.
So Chris decided to, like, you know, of course I got into running. I was a big time runner forever. And I used to always predict the weather. And I was like, gosh, you know, I look at the weather, but I was always one of those guys that was on the outside looking in and looking at all the meteorologists following the post. And I was like, you know, I could really add value to what's out there. So, you know, Chris created me a page for my birthday back in 2017. My friends on Facebook at the time actually named the channel Pal Ponder on Weather.
That's awesome.
So I was like, hey, I got to start. You know, it's like, so Chris, of course, he's a graphic designer. So true story. So what we did was we Googled the top 10 sexiest weather guys, right? And there was a guy in a, you know, suit, tie, whatever, scene in the background, weather channel, blah, blah, blah. And she stuck my head on top of him. And Pal Ponder was born.
That's awesome.
I'm surprised. Do you Google it now? Do you show up now since you've been doing it for 3 years?
Yeah, it's the real me now. I mean, yeah, no transplants anymore. That's literally how the page started. I mean, I still
that's awesome.
It's funny when I look at it. Because I had to have something to put, you know, it's like, right? I got shirts and everything else. But, you know, I remember when she got this shirt for me for Christmas one year, I took it and I was like, oh, okay. And I started wearing it. And then, of course, I got the mic and I got the rain gauge and I started adding to stuff over time. Right. But and so now it's, you know, I got a lot of skin in the game, right? I got a lot of people following me. I got 20,000 people following me.
You do. You got a lot of people following you. I tell you what, as soon as the weather starts looking weird outside, I immediately go to your page. I'm like, what is he on? What's he doing? Is he talking about it? What's happening? Yeah.
So were you ever a storm chaser or are you more of a
I did that a little bit. I did do that a little bit. You know, of course I wasn't a daredevil. I didn't have all the computer equipment and stuff in the car to do it like for real. So, because you got to be really careful when you're working with that stuff. Not just that, but you know, other people too. Because you're a lot of times you're just in small county roads. It gets backed up. I mean, it's not just you; it's hundreds of other people out there chasing.
Really?
And, oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's nowadays everybody wants to do it. It's like it can get very dangerous out there.
How fascinating! You don't even
caught in a storm. Like you can't go anywhere. It's like it's bumper to bumper traffic, and there's a tornado coming barrel down on you. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, you know, because you have so many people, and a lot of times you're in these country roads, and you got one way, two way. I mean, it's not like you got 6 lanes of traffic over here. You're in the middle of nowhere a lot of times, and it could be a very dangerous. You know, hobby. Because for a lot of people, they, you know, maybe push the envelope or they can't read the storm. It's like, hey, it's back building or it's going to drop right on top of you. And, you know, you get a lot of people just say it's the thrill of the chase. Well, you know, they're messing with, I mean, it could easily just drop down on top of you anytime and take you out. I mean, so yeah, you know, I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You can be like, okay, there's storms building, you know, a little bit in Oklahoma. Let's go take a look, but let's go take a look like over here.
Oh yeah, I'm way at a distance, and I say when I do it now, I say I haven't go storm chasing. It's ways away. I mean, I'm talking 10 miles away or what. I mean, it's away. Of course, there's definitely no tornadoes or anything.
I just want to take a little pickaloo. Maybe we'll take a couple of pictures and then we're out.
Well, you know, the main thing is you got to have all the gear. You got to be, if you're doing it for real, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to have all the analysis, and you got to know how to read it and and be ahead of the storm and think you got to be a couple steps ahead of the storm. I was like, hey, if it does this, I do this. If it does this, I do this. If it comes this way, this is my plan B or plan A. I mean, so yeah, I mean, you got to constantly think ahead. I mean, the better ones are like Reed Timmer. Like he really knows his stuff, but a lot of times he puts himself at risk, you know, but that's what he does for a living. He's the thrill of the chase, right? I mean, it's what he lives, eats, breathes, and sleeps this stuff.
Wow.
And, you know, and he knows the risk, but he's willing to take. But again, at the same time, it's very calculated. He he knows what he's doing. You
Yeah.
know, because he's seen it so many times. It's just like, you know, I think, well, okay, I've lived in Texas all my life, right? I've lived in Houston, I lived in Dallas. I'm a big stats guy. I'm a big, you know, I love numbers. And so I've seen so many storms and how they act and how they, if they do this, they do this, in this situation, they do that. So that's why I think, you know, it's definitely able to me to predict the weather even better. And because I know the history, because I've lived here all my life.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times it takes history and historic events to unfold to figure out, you know, hey, if the cap is going to hold, you know, they talk about the cap, you know, it's like, hey, is the cap going to hold? It's going to burst. You know, it's like, you know, then I have to watch the weather balloons. It's the National Weather Service lifts the weather balloons out there and punches through that ceiling. Is it going to be able to raise the, you know, tower of the storms and create, you know, supercells? So there's a lot to it, and DFW is one of these places it's very difficult to predict the weather because we're in a tripex, right? I mean, you know, you got a lot of things bisecting, a lot of things interacting right here, and there's a lot of moving parts. And there's been tons of times where the dynamics just look like, oh my gosh, we could have like catastrophic damage, but then the cap holds. Luckily, the cap holds. And there's other times these events kind of sneak up on you and these dynamics work out just perfectly. And all of a sudden we're looking at baseball size hail. And it's like,
right. Well, and what I also think is interesting, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like that because of the size of the Metroplex and the amount of concrete we have and the heat we generate ourselves, that when you get down into like Dallas proper, you know, it seems like we create our own weather pattern here because you can see storms barreling and then they just split and they go right around us and then they keep going. And we're like,
as a rain lover, it's very annoying.
There's a lot of
you know, and we're right up in it. We're
infrastructure.
Yeah.
A lot of it is with temperatures. I mean, they call it the urban heat island effect. It's a very
that's what I'm.
It's like when they can say, hey, is it going to dip down to 55 degrees and get a record low? It's like, well, yeah, it's probably going to happen in McKinney, but will it happen in Dallas? Probably not, because it's typically 5 or 10 degrees. So when we actually had a record low in Dallas, that was a pretty historic event. You realize we haven't had that many record lows in the last 5 years at all. I can count on one hand that we've had record lows in the last 5 years. I can count so many record highs. But I mean,
what are our record lows?
5 degrees. Well, it hit 55 degrees, the record low the other day when that cold front came. The record was 56, but that was back in 1941. It also hit it in 1907. It was like 1913 something. But you know, and then the high, what they call the high low, was 69 degrees, which the average high was 90. So that was 21 degrees below normal. That's pretty historic.
That's pretty historic.
So, I mean, for example, the average high in January is like 55. So when you're talking 21 degrees below normal, you're talking pretty much freezing.
Yeah.
The high is freezing. That does not happen very often.
Yeah.
You know?
It's fascinating. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So winter's coming up. Like I said, it's a La Nina year. The La Nina years are tricky. So basically what that implies, there's 90 days of winter, right? And we're supposed to be building into a medium 75% chance of the La Nina going on into the heart of the winter months. And that typically implies cooler waters in the equatorial Pacific region, which would, you know, be drying us out. We've been in an El Nino, so would dry us out, which would make sense because we're 12 inches above normal, right?
Right.
And then, so typically it's drier times and then, you know, warmer times. But that's overall, right? That's the averages between the highs and lows. Historically, it's going to have below average precipitation and above average temperatures, right? But it doesn't mean usually La Nina years we have big temperature swings. You know, like we did the other day, spiked 20 degrees and slammed down to 55. We get stuff like that. And then when we do have stuff like that, typically you can't have ice events and, you know, you can't have snow events because it's such an extreme coming at once. And it doesn't really take that much moisture for it to snow. You know, it's usually like a 10-to-1 ratio, right? If it rains if it rains in half an inch, that's almost like 5 inches in snow.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
See?
Well, I didn't think about that.
Kind of a rule of thumb. I mean, depends on how the moisture content in the snow, but that's usually about a 10-to-1 ratio. Up north, you could have 20, 30, 40-to-1 ratios.
Wow.
Because the air is very dry.
Isn't that it?
Well, that's good snow here is the only snow personally that I've seen that you might be able to call real snow. I guess it was probably about 10 years ago.
It was like 11 inches.
Yeah. I mean, we had at least a good 8 on the back patio, but that's the most snow I've ever seen in my life.
That was 2010.
Okay, I thought it was about 10 years ago.
2010. Yeah, 10, 11 inches, historic event, that was coming off we were in an El Nino in 2009 winter months, which typically favored a heavier snow event. But before that, it's been a long time. We had 2013, 14, and then 14, 15. The last real snowstorm was March 4th, 5th, 2015. It snowed like 3.5 inches, 5 inches over the 2 days, which was like a 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning time frame. But other than that, it's been like pulling teeth the last 5 years.
Agreed. Very annoying.
We had one little snowstorm in Denton last year. It snowed like 3 inches.
Yeah.
I had some flakes in my backyard for about 30 seconds. I mean, it's like, it is frustrating for sure.
It is. Do you think that we'll have any type of
well,
chance?
like I said, it doesn't favor that, but that doesn't mean it can't happen when we get these big swings in the La Nina years. It can happen. All right. I mean, I had a La Nina year in Houston. It snowed 3 times. It skipped us, but it snowed 3 times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you got to be able to, we have extreme cold fronts. That's probably a given. Then you just have to be able to match the precipitation and the cold air at the same time. But like I said, it doesn't take much precipitation when you're talking about snow. So 1/2 inch ain't nothing. And it can snow 5 inches. So
isn't that interesting? I didn't even think about that.
That's cool.
I'm going to give that a well, huh?
So how's next week looking for us?
Well, people were asking me, we're not going to get anything from Sally. I mean, again, we're on the sinking air side. It's going to hit New Orleans, Florida. We're not even going to be near that. I mean, that's not going to happen. There's going to be that little small disturbance with possibly Vicky. But again, we're 300 miles from the coast. So if you're talking Dallas, Houston, Austin, possibly rain, but Dallas, probably not, right? And then, but there's a cold front. There is actually another cold front coming. About Thursday time frame. I don't see any 90-degree temperatures in the next 10 days. Not one.
That's great.
The average high actually drops down to 89 degrees starting tomorrow. And then, of course, it just nosedives from there until like January 4th is historically the coldest day, which is the average high is like 55 degrees.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We don't live in a cold weather area. So, it is what it is.
But, if we are going into a La Nina type pattern, then historically we should see less rainfall. I got 11 inches in my house in the last 11 days from all that rain. I mean, we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It makes sense that we're going into drier times. I mean,
right.
Weather goes in cycles. It's not going to be wet. We're seven out of the last 9 months have been above average. So, I mean, they're cycles. It's going to dry. You're going to have drier spells,
Right. But do you think that we're wet enough that when we go into this drier spell that we're going to be able to stay out of drought?
We got a pretty big cushion, and typically, I say drier. I mean, historically, October is the second wettest month next month. So we usually average about 4 inches in October. So if it rains 3, that's below average, but still got 3 inches, right? So in comparison, in January and August, we average less than 2 inches. You see what I'm saying? So below average can be somewhat misleading, right?
Right. For sure. Yeah. I always get I get the drought in my head and I'm like, oh, no drought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had a lot of rain. It's been a long time since we've had a drought, technically.
We got out of the drought a few years ago and it's been pretty good.
I mean, 17. Yeah, it wasn't really that bad. 2011 obviously was one that sticks out to mind.
Yeah.
that was that historic heat wave, 71 days over 100.
Yeah.
2000, the year 2000 was another bad year for heat. Late, all the way late I think we still almost had 100 degrees in 2000. Oh yeah, and back in 2000, some of the records go back to 105, 110, even right now.
Yeah.
So
it was terrible.
Nothing really beats 1980 though. So
oh man, the 80s.
1980.
1980 historically it's neck and neck between 2011 and 1980 are pretty much about the same. 1980 had 69 days over 100. 2001 had 71 days over 100.
Wow.
It had every day in the entire month of July was over 100 degrees.
Ugh.
But that's nothing. Okay. Phoenix, for example, was 53 days over 110.
That's terrible.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so talk about smashing a record. The all-time record was 33 days.
Oh,
it did 53.
It's so hot.
We're talking over 110, and they had like almost 20 over 115. And it had no rain, like barely anything, like a quarter inch the entire 3 or 4 months. Nothing. I mean,
that's terrible.
And they have nothing like California, Phoenix, nothing. Again, La Nina's coming.
Yeah.
They missed the monsoon season. There's no rain coming for a long time. I mean, it doesn't look good for the fires. I mean, it
doesn't.
I mean, there's absolutely, we're going into the drier season. I mean,
yeah,
it's bad. And then of course you get the rainy seasons, which just gets all the spurs new growth. You builds up the forest again, and then you get the drought, and then you get the Santa Ana winds, and then here comes the fires again. It's like
right. They have. I mean, basically, they have a fire season out there.
Oh, they have fire seasons for sure.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you get people setting them intentionally.
Right. And I mean, this one was
like
before it.
Gender reveal party that set the fire off. It's like, that's what I mean. It doesn't take much to start these fires. And it's just a bad situation. I mean, all it takes is one person to throw a cigarette in the forest, and hey, look at that,
I know. Yeah. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. Do we have some questions?
We do.
We've got some questions. Let's see what our questions are.
Yeah. So Helen says she's excited to hear about all the weather. So yay, Helen. Lindsay says, hey. So just letting us know she's here.
Hi, Lindsay.
Helen's happy the postcards arrived. She was enjoying the Well Hunt stuff. Janet says that it's 2020, so she's assuming it's going to snow on Halloween. So I'll take it. There's nothing better in a costume than snowy weather. Yeah. So, that's always good. Janet also asked if we'd see snow or ice this winter. I think we covered that for sure with the La Nina talk. Mom is happy about Hurricane Vicky. So I knew that would be the case. Let's see. Helen says she knew this year would have record amounts of hurricanes. Also, Janet wants to know, she says there are several weather models, but which weather model do you think is the most accurate?
Well, it's definitely the European model is the most accurate.
Okay.
And then you have the UK Met model, which is the second most accurate. The Canadian model is the third, and the GFS, the American model, is the fourth. You have what they call the Icon model, which is the German model. That's probably a comparable model from the Euro and the UK Met. But there's 112 different model runs on a daily basis. There's a lot.
Wow.
I mean, you hear the most popular ones, but there's all these other ones that run too. And they, some run, the GFS runs 4 times a day. The Euro runs twice a day. Canadian run twice a day. I mean, you have all these, but if you add all those up, there's 112. 112 of them. So so my job is to figure out, well, which 112 is right, or if any of them are right.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of data.
Magic formula, right? Just because historically the European is the number one model doesn't mean it's going to be right 100% of the time. There's been plenty of times it's wrong, right? It's very challenging for, say, because you can't just like, hey, pick a model and say, hey, well, I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah.
Because it's typically a combination of them, and depends on there's a lot of dynamics to it.
Right. Wow.
And the European is not it's not a public model. Basically,
Yeah.
you actually have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually 5 weather services that I pay for to get the models.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not free. I pay for this stuff.
Thank you for keeping us up to date. Thank you for spending your hard-earned money to keep us up to date.
People don't realize it's like, okay, you know, I it's a free page. I do it for a hobby. That's why I have pages and I have fan gear and stuff. But I have a monthly output that I pay on a monthly basis. There's obviously there's nothing to, you know, you don't charge anything to watch me to do the weather, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and no one pays me. I don't get a salary or anything.
She started to experience some of that since Chit-Chattin with Becca has basically taken over all of my free time besides running.
Someone pay you to chit-chat with Becca, you see?
No. No one pays me to chat.
We've got people excited about the craziness of the 2x4s when we were talking about that coming into the side of the house. Yep. Helen says, yep, we were there for Alicia.
Now, I have a funny story about Alicia and Helen, by the way. Helen likes to sleep. And Helen and I shared a room. We shared a room my entire life until she went to college. Okay. Well, except I think maybe for 3 months, we may not have shared a room, but the rest of the time she and I shared a room until she went to college. And when we were in Houston for Hurricane Alicia, we lived in a 2-story house, and the entire top of the house was swaying back and forth like this. And Mom comes running up the stairs and she's like, get downstairs, get downstairs, get downstairs. And so we all get downstairs, and Helen threw a shoe at Mom and said, I'm sleeping. I'm not getting anywhere. Right. So her bed was next to the window. So Mom looked at me and she said, you just cover her up in case the glass breaks and the rest of us will go downstairs. And we left Helen in bed.
There you go.
Good so that's stuff. A story. That's my Hurricane Alicia story.
Wow. Janet says she was in the valley for Hurricane Allen.
Oh yeah, 1980, Hurricane Allen. That ended the heat wave. That was the reason why the heat wave ended in 1980 was Hurricane Allen.
Well, wow. Thank you, Alan. We appreciate that up here in North Texas. So excellent. Helen is just plugging you a little bit, talking about what a great channel name that you have, what a great channel you have, and that you definitely add value to the weather reporting. So,
I agree with that 100%.
Sweet comment there. Janet says people love weather. Being a news producer at one time, people watch the news for the weather.
I agree with that.
And I kind of have a memory, and you'll probably have a better idea of this, Roy, but when we suddenly had the Weather Channel, right? And what event caused that? I think there's an event that kind of started that 24/7 weather thing going on. It wasn't Jessica in the Well that started the 24/7 CNN thing going on.
Yeah.
There was a weather event that I feel like started
it had to be back in the 80s time frame.
I want to say, but there was definitely that turning point where suddenly, you know, my grandfather had it on the Weather Channel and nothing else, as did old roommates of mine, where I was just like, really? Can we have that much?
Chris knows all about that. Whenever there was a hurricane in the Gulf, she's like, hey, what are you watching tonight? It's like, hurricane.
What do you think I'm watching? Now then you can have your own tablet. You can be like, well, you can watch whatever you want while I'm watching the.
Yeah, give me a minute here. We've got a little bit of talk about storm chasers. Janet wanted to add that they do help the weather folks. So they're kind of, I guess, that on the grounds, boots on the ground kind of folks. And she thinks it's amazing how many people do it. She says in Abilene, we had storm chasers who would help us track tornadoes.
Yep.
Right.
And then she wants to add that people have died, I guess, for, you know, was talking about those little back roads. A famous father and son died recently, she thinks. I don't think
there was the El Reno tornado. I was watching Mike Bettis live during the El Reno tornado back, I think 15 it was. But I saw it. It was massive, 2.6 mile wide tornadoes in the back of him. I'm looking at it, and he's live on television. I was like, dude, you got to get out of there. It's like, it was literally right on top of him. And he just kept talking. And yes, by the time he got in the car and they left, the updraft lifted it. I mean, he rolled 7 times. It was bad, and
That's terrible.
on and said, luckily he survived, but it took him out. He's not doing chasing anymore. I mean, but it just literally gave me chills. I was watching this on live television. I'm looking at it like, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm like, I get it. You're wanting to talk about the weather, but it's a point at which, like, safety, man. It's wrapped up in the moment. You see, Cantori, with the lightning and the snow.
Yeah, the thunder snow. And
they're out there and like 12 o'clock at night and there's buildings collapsing, the glass is shattering. I was like, get inside. Like, you literally just clocked a gust of 104 miles an hour. Like, what are you doing? You don't have to prove anything. Right.
Well, and you're telling us to get inside. You got to get there too, man. You got to be safe just like everybody else.
I was just like, ooh, they pushed the envelope too much. And then for me, I'm looking at it like, ooh.
I know, it's terrifying.
Helen's talking about people getting interested in storm chasing after the television series, but then, thank goodness, both Helen and Janet add, because we can't have a chit-chatting with Becca without talking about a movie that, Twister was definitely a good one.
That was Twister too.
Yeah.
Twister 2.
There is Twister 2. But, I got to have me some Bill Paxton sniffing the dirt, that kind of stuff there. So rest in peace, my friend. Let's see. Storms are going around buildings. It's frustrating. Helen just kind of wanted to add, which I think this is cool too, and we sort of mentioned it, but I don't know that any of us really realize that ratio of rain and snow, of how much, a little amount of what we would call rain would actually bring a large
good rule of thumb is a 10-to-1. It could be 5-to-1. Wet snow. Typically, the later in the season you have a wetter snow. Like the March snow in 2015 was probably more like a 5-to-1 ratio because the temperature was right at 32, 33, 34 degrees. But typically, if you get temperatures 28 or below, then you tend to get those, that's usually the sweet spot where you want to be. That's where we were in 2010, and we had.
That was the most beautiful morning ever.
So is it because the molecules, the snow molecules, are larger than a frozen water molecule? Is it larger than a liquid molecule?
Well, you need warm air to cause lift, and of course, then you have cold air. So, I mean, then we live so far south. So, I mean, it just has to be bright. So you have that warm air rising, and then as it falls, it just there's a lot of moisture content with it. I talk about the fat levels, the water, the precipitation, water content, the potential of water in the atmosphere. Has to be higher. So when you saw these tropical rains lately, where we had when I talk about 2 or 3 inch rainfall rates. That's what the atmosphere has the potential to give. If it's not there, it's not going to produce it. I mean, it has to be available.
Isn't that fascinating? It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I love weather.
People are excited for cooler weather. Helen definitely chimes in that 1980 was the worst.
It was terrible.
Janet says she was in the Rio Grande Valley that year, and that was probably even worse than what we dealt with. But again, probably more of a dry heat. So, let's see. We chit-chat for free. The Hurricane Helen story. Janet likes that. Helen says, don't mess with me when I'm sleeping, which just in general, or chop onions. Those are kind of the two things onions. You don't do around Helen.
Nope. So you got to realize the La Nina, now it just classified it. So we had a drought in California, drought in Phoenix. They had high. So if this La Nina, we just got classified on the 10th, maybe got classified back in, say, April or May, then we would have a really hot summer. Right? I mean, it would be really dry, and by the time July rolled around, it would be hot, and then by the time August rolled around, it would be hundreds every single day. But since we're basically done with summer, and now we're starting, and it's just now developing. So that drier weather from Phoenix and stuff will slowly shift.
So what's your favorite kind of weather? What excites you the most?
It's typically spring. The challenging month is March, right? I mean, March, April timeframe where you just have a lot of swings in the atmosphere. You have the cap, you've got cold fronts, you got warm fronts, you've got severe weather, you've got tornadoes, you have hail. I mean, it's a very challenging month to forecast in, and the weather can change on a moment's notice. And it's probably, unfortunately, I mean, it's not tranquil, right? But yeah, you have bigger storms to talk about, bigger storms and hail events. And October is too. October can be another, that's typically the second month. Because remember last year we had 10 tornadoes on October 20th. So and that is a culprit of a La Nina pattern. So that could play out for sure. So we are potentially going into an elevated tornado time frame coming up because of the dynamics.
We're no stranger to the tornado around here. That's for sure.
We're not.
I mean, nothing like Oklahoma or anything.
It's been very
like
light, so again, it cycles. It's been very light, but because of the La Nina coming and going into October, yes, that is a something that I'm going to be looking out for more than I would if we are under different conditions.
Yeah. Well, Roy, we can't thank you enough for letting us pick your brain. We love having you on the show.
I see we've been talking for an hour, so
I know. I was like, we can keep going, but I'm sure people are like, okay.
I know. They're like, okay, we're done chit-chatting. I got to get on doing stuff.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed it. And we love having you give us our forecast when we do the Chit-Chattin' with Becca show. And, I hope that you like it too, because we'll continue to ask you if you still want to do it. So
sure. Yeah, absolutely. So
so we'll see you next week.
I appreciate you having me. I love watching the show build and flourish, and I'll help you out in any way I can.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all make sure that you go and follow his page, Ponder on Weather, Ponder on Weather on the Facebook. He's great. And like I said, if the weather gets weird around here, I immediately go to his page and see what's going on. So thank you so much, Roy, for joining us. We really appreciate it and loved having you.
Thank you, Roy.
Bye.
Have a great rest of your Saturday.
You too.
Tell Chris we said hi.
I will.
Hi, Chris. Bye. See ya.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was a blast. I mean, to tell you what, Roy is amazing, and he's incredible, and having him on the show is just, we're so grateful that he took the time out of his day to be on the show with us. So I hope y'all learned something. I definitely learned stuff. So we'll look forward to the weather this winter and see where we go. And, if there's a Hurricane Vicky, then, Hurricane Vicky's going to barrel right through. So we'll hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, we're going to have Dr. Janet next week, and that'll be a lot of fun. We'll be talking about social media and politics and all kinds of stuff like that. And then, we love hearing from you. Send us your correspondence. You'll get special treats in the mail if you do. So we've got our silly stickers and everything like that. We'll read your correspondence on the show, and that'll be a lot of fun. And follow us on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitters and all of that stuff. And we'll interact with us and let us know what's going on with you. And if you have ideas for the show, stuff that you'd like to see, let us know about that too, because, we're always looking for new ideas and stuff to do. So, until next week, we'll see you next week on the 19th at 2:30 with Dr. Janet. And have a great week.
Register to vote.
Register to vote. If you haven't registered to vote, register to vote, vote.org. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.